Okay, so what do we see for the title is? When bitter is better. Somebody was telling me today that they had a challenge when they were younger of biting their nails. And to help them, to cure them from that habit, their loving grandmother, I believe it was, would put some bitter things on their nails, like aloe. There's a lot of bitter things you can put because if something's bitter, you would think that the person would stop the habit, right? They're trying to help them while they're a child to keep them from doing that. Is there a place for bitter? And is bitter sometimes better? That's the question for today, okay? And we're going to have to do it just a teeny bit of understanding a little bit about the body because we know, and I'm going to be reading from Proverbs 4, verse 7. Sister Jackson mentioned this verse this morning. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore we all want wisdom, okay? So therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So I want to make sure that you aren't just given information, that you have understanding, that you get the knowledge and you know how to apply it personally, and then by God's grace that you'll be able to share it with others. This morning in our message, we also had a talk about manna and quail. Now, right before the manna and quail, when the Israelites left Egypt and they are headed out, they had their first experience, which is in Exodus 15. They were getting ready to come. You remember we got number of people out there. And they're coming to some water. And when they got to the water, verse 23, I'll start with verse 22. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Okay. And we know how we are without a day without, so they're going without water. And when they came, verse 23 of Exodus 15, when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" The water was bitter. And the goal of this talk is not that we want to drink bitter water. Not at all. But we're going to be talking about bile. We're going to talk about bile flow. So we need to know what it is. We need to know how we're going to increase it. Why do you even want it to improve it, and how? So those are the things we're going to cover just very quickly by God's grace, and that you'll have some understanding. And let's see if my clicker is going to work from here. Okay, so one of the things that fat is needed for is just to digest fats. So we're all eating something with fats, nuts, seeds, whether it's a solid fat, some olives, some avocado, pecans, whatever it is. We're eating fat somewhat in some form often. So what bile does, just like when you take dish soap and it breaks down the oils in little pieces so that you can wash your pots or whatever clean, bile is going to break it into little, we call it emulsify. It breaks it into little pieces so that it's easier, has more surface area to digest. Okay, so it's not as hard to digest the fat. So we want to be able to emulsify or break down fats. If you don't, you're going to have more problems. Some people do have problems when they eat fatty foods, or their fat will actually not digest and it'll be in their stool. And their stool, you can tell with their stool. Bile is also needed just to absorb certain fats. So there are what we call fat-soluble vitamins. There's vitamins that you need fat to absorb. And those are your vitamins A, vitamins D, vitamins E, vitamins K. Those are actually even stored in the liver. But to absorb them, so you might be eating them, but you may not absorb them because you don't have the proper bile. And so your D is low. Is it because you aren't getting in the sun? Is it because you aren't getting or could it be because you aren't absorbing with the gallbladder and the bile? Okay. It helps neutralize the stomach acid. So when we eat our food, the stomach is supposed to be very acidic. And when the food from the stomach is moving into the small intestine, that needs to be alkaline. And the bile is what's going to help alkaline that, okay? And we want that because we need the next stage of digestion to occur. Bile actually helps for excreting bilirubin. Now, bilirubin comes from the red blood cells. Red blood cells are the cells that carry oxygen throughout your body. So we want our red blood cells. They're carrying the oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, we know you're dead in a couple minutes, right? So, but red blood cells are constantly being broken down. They're constantly being remade. So you have a complete set of red blood cells every 120 days. So as they're being broken down, there's something that's called bilirubin. And when they get your blood, usually once a year or whatever, they're going to check and they'll see your bilirubin. If it's getting high, that means, there's a problem with that aspect of your bile. But that is also needed to help lower extra cholesterol. We all need cholesterol, we know that. But sometimes there's excess, and if your bile's not working properly, you're not getting good bile flow, because bile is actually recirculated over and over, and if it gets too toxic and not getting cleansed, then that's not going to happen, and you're going to have extra cholesterol. Okay? It also helps eliminate toxins and metals. And so if a person is trying to do detox, if they're trying to eliminate certain things, whether they're parasites, whether they're heavy metals like, you name it, all the heavy metals that we're all exposed to on aluminum, mercury, whatever, if your bile's not flowing, that's not going to be able to be excreted, okay? You can get it in the blood, but it has to be able to, as it goes to the liver, to be pulled out to be excreted. So toxins, like the pesticides and herbicides, your bile is going to help you get rid of that. It helps actually even with hormones like insulin, thyroid, even some of the reproductive hormones. And the last one, bowel movement stimulation. So if you have a tendency to sluggish bowel movements, you should have a bowel movement after every meal. If you don't, then it may be because that bile is not flowing. And so when they do an ultrasound, sometimes what they'll see, not necessarily stones, you may not be to the point where you actually have gallstones, but you can have what they call bile sludge, where the bile is just getting thick and it's not thin and running like it should. So when it gets too thick, you're predisposing yourself not just to all those toxins and not getting the nutrients, but you're setting yourself potentially later to have stones. And the people that typically have stones, unfortunately, women are more prone to gallstones than men, and that has a lot to do with estrogen. Because as we get excess estrogen, and if we have excess weight, and we get a certain age, there's what we call the 3Fs, the female fat 40. There's certain things, there's a couple things that go together, which can set a person up for gallstones. But all of us want to make sure that our bile is moving properly, whether you're male, female, young, or old. Okay? So basically, it's necessary for good digestion, for nutrients, just to be healthy. You need bile, and you need it to be flowing. If you want to get those waste out, you want your bile moving. So just quick little bit of anatomy. Here's your liver. Right over here on your right side, up higher. Right in there's a little fossa, a little curve in there, and that is where your gallbladder is. The liver makes the bile. The bile is going to come down and be stored in the gallbladders till it's needed, and then it comes down this duct, and it joins in with the duct from the pancreas. This is your pancreas, and it goes into the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine. So as the food is coming down from the stomach into the small intestine, this is where it's acidic. Now it needs to be alkalized, and that's where the bile comes in. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's another picture you can see. The bile ducts coming in, being stored here in the gallbladder again, going down. Now here you have your large intestine right here, but all behind that we have our small intestine, your 21 feet. So it's joining into that small intestine there. And one last, just because I want you to kind of get the idea. So you have the acid coming in, small intestine, the bile coming in. Okay? We're good so far? Okay. I want to make sure you have understanding. So how am I going to decrease it? We talked about the what. Now, how do I decrease bile flow? Number one, by just eating the typical diet. If you're eating the average westernized diet with all the processed food, whether we're talking, you name it, the typical diet, processed food, the processed oils, the sugar, the fried, the whatever, you're going to be decreasing your bile flow with every bite. Okay? If you indulge in alcohol, that's going to decrease bile flow. Some people already have a tendency to their gallbladders not working properly for various reasons, so that can affect that. If you don't have enough choline in your diet, and there are foods that can help with that, and cruciferous vegetables, those ones with sulfur, can help, even that, your broccoli, cabbage, things like that. And if you have high levels of estrogen, like I said earlier, that will also affect your bile flow. So again, other reasons why you want to make sure that your bowel is moving, because if you don't have good bile flow, you aren't going to have good health. They go together. You're going to be more prone to leaky gut. You've heard the term leaky gut, where things are going into your intestine, and that sets you up for autoimmune diseases like arthritis and lupus and all types of things. You aren't going to get a lot of nutrients absorbed. You're going to have more. You can have bloating after certain foods, or just more stomach upset, and your gut, you just don't feel good. You should wake up, you should be able to eat and enjoy your food and have more energy after you eat and be able to do what you need to do and think clearly. That's the way that God intended us to respond to food. It should be good for you and good to you. So now the question is, how do I improve it? And that's what we're going to talk about just real quickly, some of the biohealthy foods. So this is a list of foods. We're going to go over some of them, not all of them. And many of them have a lot of aspects that we can talk, that we've already done some God's pharmacies on. And so you can look at some of those, but just hit this. What is this? Artichokes. Who likes artichokes? Okay, so artichokes are actually a wonderful food, but something that many people don't eat on a regular basis. So you can buy artichoke hearts, you can buy the whole artichokes and eat them like a finger food, but it actually does improve bile flow and your liver health. It's going to help you with the digestion of fats. And a lot of liver formulas will have artichokes in it because of that. It's actually a flower bud. You can use it for indigestion. You see it's high in fiber. It's just going to help with your bowel movements even. So artichokes will be a good food that you want to incorporate. Like I said, you can put it in your salads. You can put it in your pasta dishes. Some people, when they're making pizzas, they'll put it on the artichokes. So you can just eat it like a finger food. Lemon and lime. Now I know that culturally, some people are have more of a leaning toward lime versus lemon. But lemon and lime are something that when I go to the store and I buy these bags of lemons, they're always like, man, what are you getting lemonade? And I'm like, no, we have lemons every morning at our house. So I buy a lot of lemons, and every morning we start our day off with lemon water. So, but you don't have to do it just in the morning. It's an excellent way to alkalize the body after the cleansing that's occurred during the night. But even during the day, lemon is very beneficial. It can give you an energy boost. It just helps the pH of the body to normalize. But you see where I bold, supports bile production and stomach acid. So for those who have low stomach acid, lemon is your key. Lemon juice before your meals, lemon maybe on your salad, extra lemon on your salad, but just putting lemon in different things can be helpful. It will aid with the bile flow. It can actually, it is low. When we say low on the glycemic index, it means it's not going to put your blood sugar up and down, like some foods. So it helps with the pH. We talked about that. It's high in vitamin C. It'll help detoxify organs like the liver, gallbladder, and kidney. Helps the body use fat. So that's why some people, when they're trying to lose weight, will add extra lemon and things but if a person's underweight, it's not necessarily going to make you lose weight. It'll help. It just keeps normalizing. And can you tell what that is? There's different kinds of that. What plant do you think that is? Parsley, yes. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of parsley, so parsley can look different. But parsley, again, is wonderful for kidneys. It's good for building blood. It actually helps lower, for some people, they know that when they've gone to their doctor and they've seen their blood work, that their liver enzymes are elevated. Parsley can help lower it. And parsley is real versatile. You can make it as a juice. You can take parsley and make a tea out of parsley. You can use it. Now, when you go to a restaurant and they give you that little garnish of parsley, most people don't eat it, right? There's a lot of nutrients in that little bit of parsley. And even if you just eat that little bit right before it, that bitter is going to get your bile moving, okay? But you can start sneaking parsley in a lot of foods and you don't even realize it. Or if you make a vegetable broth, just put some extra parsley in it. So parsley tea, parsley juice, parsley you can eat, all of the above. And it actually can help, for some people, it lowers their blood sugar. Yes. Oh yeah, parsley tea. And so you would just boil the water, put the parsley in. You aren't going to boil the parsley, but just let it seep after. And probably a mixture. I haven't seen a parsley tea bag. I haven't. But you could just use fresh parsley. It would work just as well. Yes, but right. Yes. Okay, celery. Now, celery and cucumber are both wonderful, especially in this time of year when it's hot, because they have so much water and they'll cool you down. So that's actually a wonderful way. If I've been working in the garden or something, yes, we have watermelon, but cucumber juice is very refreshing on a hot day. It will cool you off. And my daughter used to, we would put green powder in it, and she would call it her how people have chocolate milk, that was her green milk. So, she's walking around with her little mustache from whatever, spirulina or superfood or whatever in her cucumber juice. But my point is that celery and cucumber both, you want to use those to help with liver. Now, you know this, but when's the last time you ate a radish? Okay, so radishes you really want to start incorporating. They help clean the liver, and they're going to promote liver health. They actually will help you make more bile. So you want fresh bile, because sometimes your body starts getting old and it's not making the bile. So the radishes will help stimulate bile synthesis and making more. And so that's going to let you remove more toxins. So for many people, that you've been exposed to certain things, whether knowingly or unknowingly. We all have heavy metals and other things. So radishes would be something you want to incorporate. It's very good for the lungs, like if you have asthma or tendency to bronchitis. It actually helps with kidneys. It can help lower the blood pressure. I had forgotten about that one. But it actually protects against some cancers, including colon, stomach, and mouth. It will it's wonderful for eliminating mucus. So if you have a tendency, some people, they're always getting a little phlegm, they need to start incorporating some radishes on a regular basis, okay? Definitely helps with sinus, and if a person who has a tendency to jaundice, turning that yellow from the liver, which for colon, stomach, and mouth. And then it eliminates mucus and clears the sinus, and useful for jaundice. So just doing a couple of radishes. So you could easily put radishes in your salad. You can add a couple of radishes if you're juicing or blending. You can actually bake. I've had some baked where someone seasoned the radish, and they baked it, and actually it was good. It was just, I was surprised. So just being creative. Okay, this one you might not be able to tell. A lot of cultures use it all the time, particularly the country that's south of the United States. Cilantro, yes. So cilantro, coriander, definitely also helps bile flow and with your digestive juices. It will protect the liver from toxins and liver damage, again with the blood sugar. Parsley, as well as, I didn't mention it for parsley, but parsley as well as cilantro are actual kind of deodorants, natural deodorants. So if you had onions and garlic and you're worried about your breath and you need a little parsley or cilantro, it can help because of the chlorophyll, such a rich chlorophyll. It can help. It can help neutralize that and act as a natural deodorant. It can help with sleep. And now cilantro is known also for helping with heavy metals in particular. For some people, when they know that they have a lot of heavy metals, they'll even take a cilantro tincture because you want that much. Otherwise, you could just juice a whole bunch. But cilantro definitely can assist with removing the heavy metals. And, that's even in the news currently as far as some of the metals that we may have been exposed to in childhood with some of the vaccinations that were received as a child or whatever that unbeknownst to us. So I'm saying there's a lot of different ways that we've been maybe exposed, but it is in the air. We breathe heavy metals in the air. It's in water. So we want to do our best with the things that God has provided to help neutralize that. And then for turmeric, there are so many studies. This is probably old stat as far as the 6,000. There are so many studies on turmeric. Turmeric affects everything. I mean, there's really nothing that turmeric's not going to help you with. Of course, you don't want to do it if you're getting ready to have surgery because it can thin the blood. And with that thinning, you don't want to go into surgery with your blood having a tendency to thin. But it definitely will improve liver function and help with the bile flow. And if a person has a sluggish gallbladder, it's going to help with that. So I could go on and on and on, and yeah, that could just be a whole day's lecture on turmeric. I hear somebody. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, so when a person doesn't have a gallbladder, that's a good question. If you don't have a gallbladder, what actually happens is instead of, you saw where the liver makes it and goes to the gallbladder and holds until it needs, instead of that, it's connected straight to the small intestine. So as the liver makes it, the tube is going directly to the small intestine, and it's just going to drip, 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 constantly drip. And so the problem with that is that when you need a bolus, when you need a whole bunch, like if you just ate some guacamole or if you just ate some whatever nut, you don't have a supply to help you break that down. And so someone who's had their gallbladder removed, they may need extra help when they eat something that is rich in a high-fat food. They aren't going to have this good digestion, so they're going to have to work on digestion even more. So you want to prevent it, and that's why I'm saying that this is important for everybody to know now. Prevention is much better than cure. If you can prevent from ever getting to that stage, because what happens is you wake up in the middle of the night and you're in acute pain, and you're going to the hospital and they say, oh, we have this gallstone, and what is the tendency? I can't take it. Let's get it out, get it out. Most people aren't going to say, okay, what can I do? What are my alternatives? Is there a way I can get rid of this stone without? And, there are large stones that by God's grace and perseverance and prayer and perseverance and prayer and perseverance have passed. So, and I think there are people here who could share stories. So I believe that by God's grace, you just want to make sure that you don't get there in the first place. What would a person eat? Oh, okay. So if a person has had their gallbladder removed, they would need to, you can use certain things when they're having a high-fat meal or digestive enzymes, plant-based digestive enzymes, and then these herbs, like things like that nature, prior to eating to help with digestion. You can still eat these foods. No, you're eating real food. But you're going to avoid concentrated unless you have some type of additional support. I wouldn't eat concentrated oils. I wouldn't eat something with I wouldn't eat a handful of macadamia nuts maybe without some extra support. Oh, but that's already off. I mean, that's just, the fried food is already out. Fried. Right. And see, there's alternatives to frying those foods. So you can still bake. A lower temperature bake for a longer time can still give you that crunch. It just takes a little bit longer to get the crunch. So there's other ways besides frying something. And there's nothing wrong with crunchy food. I mean, we all like different textures at times, but the fried food is out. Did I answer your question? Can you use the mic? So, yeah. It does. That is for the recording.
Yeah, I wanted to ask.
Once it's gone, it's gone. So that's why you want to guard what we have. Yeah, when it's gone, it's gone. So there's some things that can be replaced, but no, once the gallbladder is out. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your bowel moving. And in that duct also, there's a lot of what we call liver flukes, little small, kind of like parasites, but not technically parasites that live there. And so if you keep that bowel moving, these things will get washed out. They'll go out into the colon like they're supposed to if they come in inadvertently. Okay? Now, this is ginger. And I thought this was interesting. It says, during 13th and 14th century England, a pound of ginger root could cost as much as a sheep. Isn't that amazing? I thought that was pretty interesting. But, okay, so most of us have had some type of ginger at some point, whether it's ginger ale, but ginger is something. We all know that ginger helps with the stomach, but it definitely also helps with the liver. So we want, like it says, decreases inflammation, heartburn, nausea, indigestion, motion sickness, stomach discomfort, etc. I just put the things pertinent for what we're talking about now. Yes?
Sometimes I take turmeric in pill form.
Okay, so good question. So turmeric is something that's very hard to absorb. And so if you take it in pill form, you want to make sure that you take it after a meal because then you'll have some fat with the meal. You don't have to just say, okay, here's some fat. But most meals have something in it, has some oil. So it needs oil to be absorbed. Otherwise, it needs... Okay, so the question is for fat. I'm sorry, for turmeric. If you're taking turmeric capsules, how's that affect absorption? Is it absorbed? And so the answer is you want to take it with your meal. As long as you take it with the meal, the turmeric can be absorbed. Otherwise, you need it to be heated. So if you're cooking with the turmeric, then that's fine. It needs to cook for at least 20 minutes. So, like if you're making some beans or whatever like that, and you're putting the turmeric in, of course, then that's going to be part of the meal. It's cooked for 20 minutes, it's fine. If you're making a tea, the tea needs to simmer for at least 20 minutes. Otherwise, you aren't going to get, the benefits. I've seen some people put turmeric in their juice. They'll juice with turmeric. And to be honest, you're getting the straight juice and it can get in, but you aren't going to get the optimal absorption because of the lack of the oils. You need heat or oils to get absorbed.
So your suggestion maybe should we say I want to eat some nuts?
Mm-hmm.
Can I, take a pills and then
Yeah.
eat my nuts
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
help
for sure.
digest the
Right. You could just take your capsule then, or if you, and some people do the powder and just take the powder and mix it with something. So, I don't, but yeah, you could. Right. Now, sometimes you'll find the turmeric capsules mixed with black pepper, and they're using the black pepper to increase absorption, but black pepper is an irritant, so I wouldn't want to recommend that. But heat and the heat or fat are the best ways to absorb that. Now, I'm sorry.
Okay, so like you just said, you can't use the black pepper with the turmeric because it's supposed to be for absorption.
Correct.
But I also heard that you can use cayenne
You can use some cayenne.
instead because the same thing that is in the black pepper that helps it absorb is in the cayenne, and the cayenne does not irritate the stomach.
Correct. And some people even use ginger. Okay. Thank you.
Question here.
Yes.
Does black pepper have any nutritional value?
I'm sure it does. But you have to look at, does the bad outweigh the good? And so always look for something better. It is an irritant. It can inflame the stomach. So no, I would not use black pepper. And if you are used to black pepper and you want some great substitutes, I mean, and you don't want to get to the place where some people are using cayenne all the time also. We can train our taste buds to adapt to anything. So if you train a child to put Tabasco sauce on everything they eat, that's all that they know. But if you train a child to eat vegetables plain without any dressing, that's all that they know. And they adapt to that and they enjoy it. So sometimes we do have to retrain our taste buds for what's best and not necessarily, what we've adapted to.
I love turmeric and cayenne. So
Okay.
when I buy my turmeric and cayenne, I mix the turmeric, cayenne, and sometimes I put black pepper in just one container. And I put it on everything I eat. And I meant to bring my little bottle with me, but I forgot it. But is that harmful? I mean, I even cook with turmeric. I put it in my food, the powder, the organic powder, and then when I eat a salad or if I want extra, I just sprinkle it on my food.
I mean, I don't know how much you're using, if you're using it on everything. My thing is always think diversity. Turmeric is a wonderful herb, okay? But there's a lot of other herbs. So like when I go to my medicine cabinet, so right now I'm doing the fresh because all the fresh, ideally everyone should be growing something, like even on your porch if you don't have a garden. You should have some fresh basil, some oregano or whatever, because a handful or just even a teaspoon of that has more antioxidants than you're thinking about in all those blueberries that you spent $4 for or whatever. So you need to be using your fresh herbs. So every day when I'm doing my salad, like today, okay, I'm going to put some sage in my salad. Tomorrow, I'm going to put some, I just do a variety of different herbs. So you could do that even from your medicine cabinet and or not culinary cabinet, not your medicine. But, just get used to putting different herbs in. And so that would be my thing. There's different properties in each one. So just rotating things around. But using turmeric on a regular basis, particularly if you have a need, is not a problem. Yeah, she said the black pepper is a problem. Okay, so do you know what, you've seen this walking around? It's definitely all over the place in the South. I don't know about other parts of the world. But this is thistle, milk thistle. And it grows wild. And it has very thorny leaves. And so that's why people don't often want to mess with it because it is thorny. You can actually take milk thistle seeds and grind them like you would flaxseed and use them like this. You can take milk thistle, they sell, of course, capsules. Milk thistle is wonderful for a lot of things that we'll talk about, but you can make milk thistle tea. It is a bitter herb that, again, helps bile flow and liver. It actually will help strengthen the intestinal lining. So for those who have tendency to leaky gut, it's gonna help close that up, okay? It helps with the kidneys and oxidative stress. Helps with the prostate, lung, cervix, and pancreas. But most people, when they think of milk thistle, they're thinking about liver. And milk thistle is one of the main herbs that you always hear about for liver. You can actually take the leaves, and you have to wear a glove with it, but you can put 2 or 3 leaves even when you're juicing, when you're walking around just taking it and adding it to your juicer. There's a lot of great properties, and like I said, it's growing wild everywhere. So milk thistle is a great herb to use. And then another free herb that we all have. Now my husband taught me, because I wasn't into cutting grass, but he's taught me once you see the dandelion, the grass has grown too long, so too high. So, but dandelion, very, very healthy. And like I said, it's beneficial. So, and every part of the dandelion can be eaten. The flower, the leaf, the root. The whole dandelion can be eaten. So, of course, you want to make sure that you aren't getting dandelion from where they sprayed. But it helps stimulate a sluggish gallbladder, definitely helps with bile production. One thing that I always liked about dandelion is that it's what we call a potassium-sparing type of diuretic. So it's going to help you if you need a diuretic. It's going to help you to lose that extra water, but it's not going to make you lose potassium like some of your medications will. So that's the advantage of that versus some of the diuretics that you may be prescribed. It can help lower your blood pressure. The leaves, because they are so high in calcium, can help with your bones and your teeth. So you can take the leaves, you can put it in a salad, you can cook the leaves, and you can juice the leaves, you can cook it and eat it like greens, or you can take the leaves and put it in a salad. So because it helps with detoxifying all the organs, even the skin, some people will use it if they have problems with acne. So yeah, dandelion is a wonderful free herb. Again, you don't have to pay money. I believe that God's plan, if you follow it, there's always something in your area that you can use. You just have to do some research and see what are some of the things growing around you that you can use. You don't have to break your budget to follow God's plan. I really do believe that. You had a question? Somebody, I think Kate, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of dandelions around my area and in my yard and stuff. And I'm like, just cutting them down. Now I know I can eat it.
Yes. She was saying that she has a lot of dandelion in her yard. So yes, save it. You may even want to have a little area, if you have a little garden area, and just let some that you designate just for that. Like you can have an area that you grow, that you designate for your plantain. Or I know I've seen a lot of wild violet, and violet leaves are very expensive, very expensive. And if you see them, I mean, that's very nutritious also. So, okay. So there are times when it is better to eat bitter. Arugula. Arugula is a form of a green that many people don't eat, but having arugula in your salad instead of the typical sweeter types of lettuce. And even I would take arugula probably over most of the green lettuces. Mixing some of that in, and that's something that's easy to grow. So we just want to get used to the idea that bitter is often better. And if you have something bitter before your meal, with your first bite, if you have something bitter, that's going to get the bile juices flowing, and your whole digestion is going to be so much better. Then you're eating relaxed, you're going on your nice digestion walk, you're going to have a great digestion. And of course, even with that, a good bowel movement, because if your bile is moving, your bowels will be moving. Okay? Any other questions before we close out? Yes. Can we pass the mic to our brother?
If one cannot get those bitter herbs, can somebody take for a long-term supplement like bitter Swedish? Is it safe?
Swedish bitters? Yes. Okay. So yes, you can take some Swedish bitters. They have different kinds. You can make you can make your own bitters. So that's a formula you can buy, and I think there's 22 herbs. One recipe has 22. Some of them will have 12 herbs. But they're a combination of herbs. And with the Swedish bitters, is because there was a lady that was Swedish, came up with the original recipe. But there are a lot of different recipes now. And so they have alcohol-based, and then they have glycerin-based. The alcohol-based ones will, of course, allow it to last for years without you. And you aren't getting like alcohol where you're going to get drunk. We're talking about the alcohol you would get in a ripe banana. Okay, so for those, but the whole point of the reason they're using the alcohol is to preserve it. You can get glycerin-based ones also, but you have to use it. If you're getting a large bottle and you aren't going to use it in a timely manner, it could potentially spoil. So I just want you to be mindful. But you can make your own. You can make a bitter teas and just have a little bit of tea beforehand. But again, you'd have to keep making the tea fresh, because some people make a tea and it's in the refrigerator for a week. That's a problem. I mean, after 3 days, you need to replace that tea. You want fresh things, and I'm saying 3 days generously. Okay. Okay, so we have a sample. Someone made this for me. And this is a sample that you all will be able to have. It has turmeric. They took about 2 inches of turmeric. They took a teaspoon of the ginger juice. They took about a tablespoon of lemon juice. And they put 15 pieces of the branches of cilantro. And they steeped the cilantro and made this nice little lovely drink for you to try if you would like to. Now, to be honest, I haven't tasted it, so I don't know how bitter it is. But you will tell me, how many do we have? Well, we're talking about bitter being better, right? My brother Leo, would you mind helping me? Oh, I'm sorry, you could have helped either way. Yeah. And we had trays. Let's see. Is it under, look under here. See if there's one under here. No? Is you just want to get used to the idea that bitter can be better. And so if that's the case, I mean, since that is the case, get used to having something bitter. We have to retrain, so that we don't always want something, always want something sweet. Yes, I just don't want to make a mess. Yeah, just enough to let it try. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, I'm glad we had the tray. Let me get it. Should I get a spoon? Oh, like a ladle? Okay. Keep going. Two, four. Teresa, do you want some? Do you want some? Okay. Just checking. Hmm? Okay. I got you because we're passing the cup. Okay, that worked. I doubt anybody else is going to want any more. I think that's everybody. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. One more for you. I'm skipping. I'll bypass. I'll wait 24 hours to see if you guys are still alive. I forgot. Okay. You smell the ginger? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Turmeric, ginger, lemon, and cilantro. You're just smelling it though. It's like you're scared to. Oh, you tasted it? Okay. Not bad? No. Turmeric, ginger, lemon juice, and cilantro. It's not bitter, it's bitterish. Okay. 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 Okay, well, if there's no other questions, just remember the point is that bitter is definitely better in many places, okay? Come on, I'll have some.
I could live with this.
You can live with it? Okay. Yeah, I thought about that. Oh, no, there's no castor oil in there. There's no castor oil in there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out with prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much that you love us enough to provide exactly what we need. You have provided our bodies. You have provided us with the ability to put certain things into our body and make choices not to put certain things. But if we inadvertently do, or even knowingly, Lord, you still have a way to help us to heal and to detoxify. So for that, we are grateful. Help us to make wise choices that would glorify you, so that whatever we eat or drink or whatever we do, that we would do all to your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord, I am the Lord that healeth thee. If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord, I am the Lord that healeth thee. For I am the Lord, I am the Lord that healeth thee. Exodus 15.